So this draft preview show will probably be different than every other draft preview show, not only in Minnesota, but across the country. Because I'm not going to tell you they need to get this guy or player X or player Y. I think there are so many possibilities. It's much more instructive to talk about philosophy and where this roster and this franchise is right now than to pretend we know exactly who they're going to take at 24 or even if they're going to stay at 24. But let's get into all the possibilities here on the Viking Update Show. This is part of TalkNorth.com. John Krawczynski from The Athletic is the star of this show. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios, and we're presented to you today by Giggly THC Beverages. That's GIGLI. Promo code Giggly North will get you 50% off your first order. I just used that privilege, and I have a refrigerator full of the stuff. Also by OnX Hunt. We'll tell you more about them in a little bit. Thanks also to Clamshell Beach Resorts, Twill in the Edina Galleria, and Natrium. So let's get to it, John. It is draft week. We were talking here on Tuesday morning. I don't think the Vikings are going to do anything dramatic before the actual draft on Thursday night. Just give me your assessment of this draft, where this team is, and what you think might happen.
You know, it's a super interesting draft for the Vikings going to, and I think that, you know, a lot of times when the Vikings are picking lower in the first round, as they are this year, and like, you know, the other part of it, Jim, is like they don't have a ton of picks, and so you'd think on its face that, well, this is, you know, kind of, there's not much to write home about here. Like, well, what is to get excited about with this particular draft, given the lack of picks, given where they are picking in the first round in particular. But I'm incredibly interested in it because I feel like it's going to take some resourcefulness from Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and the Vikings staff to maximize what they're going to do with this, whether that is making some trades to accumulate more picks or whether that is staying and picking where they are supposed to, just because, you know, there's not going to be obvious selections on the board for them at those spots. And so I really am just intrigued to see what they end up coming out of this draft with, because it is not we've seen many instances in the past, especially under Rick Spielman, where they have a ton of picks and they're drafting 7-8 guys and they're just loading up their roster with young players, and sometimes they're picking in the middle of the first round or a little bit higher, and that's tantalizing. But this time around, it's just going to take a lot of maneuvering. It's going to take a lot of, quite frankly, of some skill in terms of talent evaluation to be able to land some real talent that they actually need going into a season that should have very high hopes for them. And so I want to just see how Kwesi navigates the chessboard, because he hasn't been great in a couple of these drafts doing that. But I think it's really important for him to do that this time around and continue adding to a team that feels really good about the work that they did in free agency.
One other topic I want to get to later in the show is the possibility that Kirk Cousins could end up with the Vikings. We'll get to that later. Let's stay with philosophy right now, because I think, you know, when you're picking 24, you don't need a quarterback. And you're not desperate at any position. You know, so many things can happen. I would say the more I've thought about this, the more I've read, you know, draft experts, the more I've tried to get into Kwesi's head. They have done so well in veteran free agency and with trades for veterans. They do have such a strong roster. They have needs, but every team and every salary cap sport has a need. It's the way it works. They've done so well building the roster. I think the one thing that I thought was out of the question starts to make more sense. And that is, okay, they only have 4 picks, but if they're sitting there at 24 and they have the highest rated guy on their board by far start sliding, and they think they might be able to get him at 20 or 21, something like that, I would say it justifies trading up, giving away a future draft pick. If you can get a great player, you're never going to regret it. If you can get a sure thing great player instead of two pretty good players, go do it.
Yeah, I like the idea, and I'm never, like you, I am never going to get mad at aggression when it comes to draft picks. My personal philosophy, which is not always the right way to go about it, is I don't have the pick fetish that a lot of, kind of our fake GM NFL fans love
or
to
Rick
have. Or Rick Spielman, or, a lot of people do, where just like, it's quantity over quality. And I understand it sometimes. Get more bites at the apple. The draft is a crapshoot. The more chances you have, the better the odds are that you land a difference maker at one position or another. But for me, I generally lean toward, if you trust your evaluators and what they believe about a player, and you really think that, this interior defensive lineman, this cornerback, this offensive lineman is going to be, darn near a plug and play, with your starting unit, on either side of the ball, I would be absolutely okay with going to do that. Now, when you do make a decision like that to move up, it certainly does increase the pressure that you nail that pick. If you're giving up future capital, or even some of the very little capital that you have in this year's draft to go up, and you take a swing and a miss on a player, then you're in real, then you get in real trouble. That's what can really hurt you in terms of the team building aspect of it. But given where the team is, given the success that we both think that they had in veteran free agency and addressing a lot of their needs, and given my position, Jim, that I think JJ McCarthy is going to be a really good player sooner rather than later, that feels like this team is set up to be a contender in the division and then see what happens in the playoffs. And so if you are in that position, and like you said, you see a guy, at 20, at 21, and he is gettable with a package of assets that isn't going to break the bank for you, I am all about going up and getting them. I think that, you can take sort of a Los Angeles Rams F them picks approach sometimes, because if the window's open, man. And I think the window is opening quickly here for the Vikings.
I agree. All right, let's now talk about the possibility of going the other way and trading down, and why they would do that, and if they should do that if the circumstances present themselves. First, though, I want to let you know we are presented to you by Giggly THC Beverages, GIGLI.com. Giggly North is the promo code for the discount. I've been drinking this a lot. My wife has too. I think I've told you her favorite is the Arnold Palmer, the basically lemon tea. She loves it. She thinks it tastes as good as her favorite teas that she brews herself or buys out, anywhere she goes. And I love the cocktails and the seltzers. We both love the seltzers. Reminder, this is a Minnesota company, and you can get their stuff at any Quick Trip. You can get it almost every liquor store I've been in, almost any liquor store in Minnesota. And this is, low price, low calorie, natural fruit juices, tastes great. You're not going to have a hangover. You're not going to feel sluggish the next day. It'll probably help you sleep. It helps me sleep. It's such a great solution. I love a good cocktail. I'm not going to drink a cocktail every night. I might only have cocktails just on the weekend, when I'm out with my wife. This is the alternative. You can have this on a Tuesday night and go work a full day on Wednesday without any ill effect. So I highly recommend it. Love the company, love the flavors, love the idea. Giggly.com. Giggly North is the promo code. Also, we are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services. Enjoying the roller coaster spring weather? Record highs, then freezing cold, even snow. Spring sure has its twists and turns. What's next? Our hot, muggy summer. That means now is the time to schedule your AC tune-up, and for a limited time, it's 50% off. From tune-ups and repairs to new system installs, enjoy expert service and no surprise upfront pricing. Schedule today at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
And now I have to ask you, have you ever driven past a piece of land and wondered who owns that, or maybe you need to know exactly where a property line runs? That's where Onyx Hunt comes in. It's not just for hunters. There are folks using Onyx for their jobs every day throughout the country, from farmers and ranchers mapping out their fields, wildland firefighters navigating rough terrain, to construction workers needing to know who owns what property. This app offers something for everyone. If you need the best land ownership maps, aerial imagery, and property boundaries in your pocket, Onyx Hunt is the tool for the job. Try it free for 7 days. Download Onyx Hunt in the app or Google Play Store, or visit onyxmaps.com/hunt to get started. Thanks to Onyx Hunt for all their support. All right, so the other possibility here, and the more likely possibility, is, if you listen to the draft experts, and I do, once you get past a certain tier in this draft, it evens out a little bit. And maybe the player you get at 24 is about the same quality as the player you would get at 29. And the Vikings have, they have many needs still. They could use a guard, they could use a cornerback, they could use a safety. You can always use defensive line and pass rush help. What do you think the odds are they trade down because that's such a likely scenario?
Yeah, that just feels more likely, Jim. I am not Mel Kiper. So I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of what this draft is and is going to be as we go into this week. But when you're looking at the overall tone and tenor of the draft coverage from the experts, I agree with you that it does seem like I don't want to say it's a shallow pool, but it's sort of a wide one where there's going to be just a lot of players that are of similar ilk, that have similar grades, in that lower part of the first round. And, it seems like there is a real possibility that when the Vikings get on the clock, there's going to be 2 or 3 guys there for them that they like, but probably not, maybe not one that they absolutely love. And so if that's the case, I think it makes a lot of sense to try and rebuild a little bit of your draft capital in this draft or going forward by dropping down a few spots, as long as you do have a good handle on the teams around you and on the players that are available, and know that you can still get a guy that you really like a few picks back. Now, there always is risk for that. We saw Kwesi drop down in his first draft and how that did not work at all with Lewisine and passing up on Hamilton and Jameson and a few other players. So they have to be careful with that, because I just don't think that you can afford to get too cute with this draft, with this team, if you really want to walk out of, the whole weekend and feel like you gave yourself the best chance to improve this team going forward. But yes, given, I look at some of the mock drafts, or some of my colleague Alec Lewis at The Athletic has kind of a list of guys that are expected to be available when the Vikings are on the clock in round 1. And you're looking at, Tyler Booker from Alabama, Grace Abel from North Dakota State, Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, like Calvin Banks from Texas, like a lot of offensive linemen from big time schools with big time size. You have a couple of cornerbacks, that are in the area. Jahdae Barron from Texas, Will Johnson from Michigan, who I love. If guys like that, if there's 1 or 2 guys there that are sitting there and you'd like, man, this is a can't miss. We can't afford to drop back out of it. Don't drop back. Stay there and pick the guy. But it seems like there's a real possibility they're going to be on the clock. They're going to say, man, there are 3 guys that we have kind of like right on on the same tier. Let's drop back a few spots if available, pick up a second or third day pick and grab what we can and go on to day two. I would say that feels like a real likelihood as we kind of approach the draft here.
I've looked through a bunch of old Vikings drafts. It's pretty fascinating. One thing that is almost guaranteed to happen here is that somebody who is highly regarded is going to slip because of positional need or teams just making a mistake. Randall McDaniel is as good a football player as I ever saw with my own eyes, and he went with the 19th pick in the draft, and he was great every snap of his career. Randy Moss slipped to 21. Now, Randy Moss is a very specific case with very specific background that caused him to slip, but it's still a mistake by everybody who passed on him. There's also the possibility somebody's going to fall to them and they're either going to just hope he keeps going to 24 or because they're drafting right behind the Packers. And that's the other intriguing part of this draft. They'll feel obligated to try to get ahead of the Packers.
Yeah, I guess when I think about that part of it, that's one of the parts where, the too cute angle that I think that they got to be careful not to get too caught up in. Now, I did not like his first draft when it was a trade down with the Lions. Like, I don't think you wanted to do that at all with any of your teams in your division and give them an opportunity to get a player that they really like, and make that happen. But in terms of manipulating the draft, just to kind of stay ahead of your rivals, that's great if you can pull it off. But that's not what I guess I would put a lot of my energy into. I would just we kind of started this podcast off with sort of the importance of nailing whoever you get in the first round, or if you drop to the high second round, just getting someone that you can play right away, and that's got to be the priority, I think, to me. And it just does not seem like if you're looking at things to worry about in the draft, sure, you consider it, but I've got to be just like, hey, where do we get the best player that will fit right away for us? And so that should be the priority going into this, and I believe that's what it'll be.
Let's get to the intriguing thing that was said on Jeff Diamond's podcast. Jeff Diamond, former Vikings general manager, does a podcast for TalkNorth.com. He said some really interesting things about the draft. Check out his show as well as this one, our two NFL shows at TalkNorth.com. Let's get to what he said about Kirk Cousins next. But here is Talk North star Michael Russo for Clamshell Beach Resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating, and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwyzetta.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
I just want to let you know, graduation is coming up. And if you want to take care of the young man who's graduating, whether it's high school or college, and you want to set them up for success, you want to have them looking good at job interviews, you want to have them making a certain impression, there's no better place to go than Twill in the Edina Galleria. Also go to twillmn.com and check out the website. And the great thing is, you could go in and try to pick out the right thing. You can bring that young man to Twill and he'll have a great shopping experience. It's completely laid back. They're talking sports. They're great people. They are experts what they do. They're not going to go be selling tires next Tuesday. They are experts in this field. But you can also just get a gift card. I mean, what better gift for somebody? Let them go pick out exactly what they want to wear. Let them decide if they want to spend it on a fine Italian tailored suit or whether they want to buy a nice pair of golf shorts, because that's what they have. They have everything head to toe any man could ever want to wear. That's why pretty much everything I wear and everything I wear when I want to look good, I wear when I wear stuff I got from Twill. Check out twillmn.com. Sign up for the email alerts. They will just let you know when they're having a special event or sale. They will not spam you to death. I think I get one email from them every 2 months or so. But go to the Edina Gallery and just walk past. You'll be impressed. You'll want to stop in, tell them we sent you, and say hello to Scott Dayton, our friend. I also want to let you know about Natrium. So many great delivery systems and I use this stuff for sleep relief, for stress relief, and I use the bombs for joint arthritis, muscle pain. If I work out hard, I'm going to be sore, and this stuff helps, and it helps immediately. And the great thing is the gummies, the candies, the dips, the drinks, no aftertaste. Everything tastes really clean because it is really clean. It's low ingredient. Go to the mothership store in St. Louis Park. Talk to a sales rep. Have them steer you toward what's going to work for you in your life, whether it's for fun or de-stressing or pain relief. And then once you know what you like, you can go to natrium.com, Natreum.com, and order straight off the website, and they will deliver it to you. Highly recommend it all. Find what works for you. All right, so Jeff Diamond said a couple of weeks ago, he could see a scenario. He's not saying it's likely, because I don't think it's likely at all. But he said he could see a scenario where the Falcons are desperate to dump Cousins, and the Vikings are still looking for a backup quarterback, and the Vikings are willing, if they don't have to take on much salary, they're willing to trade like a future draft pick for Kirk Cousins just to solidify their quarterback room. Again, he's not saying it's going to happen. He's saying it's more likely than some of the other scenarios have been thrown out there. What do you think of that possibility?
I mean, it's interesting to think about, Jim. Certainly when Kirk Cousins left here, he did so understandably because he got an unbelievable contract from the Atlanta Falcons, but he also did so because he was fully of the belief that he was still a starting caliber quarterback in this league, and that he wanted to be the starter and be the guy that the team built around. When he could sense, I think, that the Vikings were starting to want to think about going younger at the position and drafting a guy to develop. And then he gets to Atlanta, and the plans change immediately when they surprisingly take Michael Penix. But what I would have to know before you got back into the Kirk Cousins business is, where is he at in his career in terms of ambitions? Does he still believe and really kind of harbor the dreams of being an every week starting quarterback in this league? Or after a very tough year in Atlanta, after still recovering from the Achilles, doing all of those things, has he started to transition to a place in his career where he thinks that, being a backup is kind of what makes sense for him? And if he gets a chance to be a spot starter here and there, that's great. But he's more now resigned to a role as a number two and a mentor, because I actually do think, Jim, he'd be a good mentor for JJ McCarthy in terms of he has had incredible success in this offense. He's generally, a good guy. Like, I think that players like him and like being around him. And I think he would be a good teacher. for McCarthy. It's just a matter of like, where is he right now in his acceptance of where his career is? And that's the thing that they'd have to do a lot of due diligence on. But I wouldn't close the door on something like that at all. Especially given the other options out there right now for them at the position.
Yes. I've heard Sam Howell. I've heard Ryan Tannehill a lot. That's who Jeff Diamond thinks they'll end up with. And those are logical places to go. Cousins would be an upgrade over all those. The thing is, it's a tightrope. You'd have to not have to give up a significant asset to get him. You'd have to not take on much salary. You'd have to be assured that he would be good with his role. And happy to come back. You don't want an unhappy backup quarterback. So a lot of boxes to check. It's intriguing to think about. If they could pull it off, it would be an upgrade. Not many people have a backup quarterback for Kirk Cousins' caliber.
Yeah. And I think, we always talk about what are you looking for in a backup quarterback? And you're looking for, especially with a young starter, you're looking for a guy who is a willing mentor, but also you're looking for a guy that if JJ gets hurt, that he can come in and hold down the fort for like 4 or 5 weeks. And that should be sort of the baseline for evaluating who you bring in at the position. And I mean, would I trust Kirk Cousins at this stage of his career to be your 17-week starter? No, I would not. But do I think that provided another year removed from his Achilles injury, that he is relatively healthy, I do think he's a guy who could come in and play well for several weeks because he has such familiarity with the system, with the coaching staff, with almost all of the players on the offense around him, that it would be a very seamless transition. And generally speaking, Jim, when a starting quarterback is injured, there's sort of this chaos that is felt around the offense and around the team. What do we do? How do we make this work? Kind of thing. And I could see a scenario where Kirk Cousins has actually a really calming influence on what can be one of the more chaotic scenarios that a team confronts when the starting quarterback goes down. He has been here. He has done it. He's done it at a reasonably high level. And so there would be zero concern about his mastery of the offense, about his chemistry with his receivers, about any of that. And so I think that from all of those aspects, that sounds like a really good deal. Would I like him just as much as Ryan Tannehill? Absolutely. Sam Howell? Yes. Absolutely. But yeah, it all gets back to what does Kirk Cousins want? And would he take this role begrudgingly, or would he do it kind of with open arms? Because that's the final part on this, Jim, that is something to consider. Is it kind of feels like this old adage that you hear about NFL players in particular, is they will take a pay cut to go somewhere else, or they will take a reduced role to go somewhere else, but they won't do it to stay at the place where they were at.
Adam Thielen.
Exactly. Antoine Winfield did it at the end of his career. Mm-hmm. We've seen it a million times. And so even though Kirk Cousins left, and even though that clearly things have changed from a dramatic perspective with his injury, with how things went in Atlanta, he would still be coming back to a team that has so many familiar faces. The lines might kind of be blurred a little bit of, shoot, I've led a lot of these guys into battle. I've been the man here. And would he be able to do that, the right thing, and be the backup and be the supporting cast member here? Or would it be much easier for him to do that in Cleveland or in Arizona, wherever else needs a backup quarterback? That would be a question that I would have to explore a lot if I were the Vikings.
Yes, no doubt about it. Interesting to think about. Who knows if it happens, but the Vikings will be adding some form of backup quarterback here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I would guess. And we'll keep you updated here at TalkNorth.com with the Viking Update Show. We're here with John Krawczynski and also with Jeff Diamond's Vikings and NFL Insider. This week, Jeff and I, because he'd done a lot of draft previews in the past, we're going to do our show Friday morning after the first round of the draft, talk about the first round pick or how the first round progressed. So please check that out as well. Remember, of course, to listen. Someday it'll be watch, to listen to the John Krawczynski Show, John's show on the Timberwolves, one of our most popular shows at TalkNorth.com and highly relevant with the Timberwolves in the playoffs. So for today, thanks to all the sponsors. Thanks to everyone who listens. We do appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.